like it. All right, after a brief hiatus, jumping right into job market tea for June. We'll go through numbers, statistics, what we're seeing out there in the lovely world of work and the economy overall. Some of the key market stats for June 2025. It brought us another month of, I guess we'll call them solid but sleepy numbers. I mean, for lack of a better term.
Until the revision comes. So.
Right. They did revise one up, which I thought was interesting in a previous month. So we'll talk a little bit about that too. It's like, oh, we had a revision up. Its private sector is definitely shrinking when you look at those types of jobs out there. Non-farm payrolls are up 147,000 versus 144,000 in May. That was the month that was revised slightly up. Unemployment is down to 4.1% from 4.2%. Again, I just feel like that is not necessarily, I just think people are running out of employment.
Yeah. It's people just who's actually filing claims.
Right. And who still is eligible to file claims, right, after their 6 months of unemployment, things of that nature. But labor force participation, this is the number that I always say, I feel like is the number to truly watch because you start to understand what's happening within the working world and sector. Is labor force participation dropped to 62.3% from 62.4%. So it's showing that it's dropped versus increase along with the unemployment, which just feels weird to me. I don't know how to call it and what's going on with that. Wages are up 0.2% month over month and 3.7% year over year. Jobless claims, 233,000 in the final week of June, which is, I know, ultimately still low when you look at things overall, but it doesn't feel that way when you feel what's happening in the economy. So far this year, we're averaging 146,000 jobs per month. It's consistent, but not explosive at all. Layoffs still laying off, but over 150 companies announced cuts in June. Notables are Walmart, Pfizer, Morgan Stanley, and several other federal agencies. And we just learned this month as well, Indeed laid off 1,300 people. The sector winners are government, up 73,000 jobs, especially in education. Healthcare and social assistance are up 58,000 jobs combined. And then our sector laggards that we have are construction and manufacturing. They are flat or slightly negative. Professional services are definitely sluggish. That's why we have all those white collar type jobs that we're seeing out there that are staying stagnant and staying up and not getting filled. So many thoughts about that. Leisure and hospitality, no summer boost yet that we've seen this season. The private sector flag, ADP reported a drop of 33,000 in private jobs. This month's headline gains, they came from the public side. So again, private is definitely going down and it's shrinking. Federal Watch, June's moderate data has economists pushing rate cut expectations into September or beyond. I don't think we'll be seeing that anytime soon based on the uncertainty in the economy. We're not crashing, but we're definitely not climbing either. It's like sitting on a runway, waiting to take off or waiting to see what's going to happen. Are they going to ground the plane?
Or favorite feeling.
Right. Are we going to take off? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. So when I look at just overall, wages are easing year over year is now 3.7% down from 4%. So I don't understand how that is happening as well. I mean, I understand how it's happening, but how is it possible when you think about the increase of everything from a cost perspective, wages going down from 4% to 3.7% this month? So it's good for inflation, but not great for worker leverage. Overall, the caution is the mood. No cut in July. Most bets are on September and December for some more Fed cuts and rate cuts. Market rally after June report, but economists say don't get comfy overall. I don't think anybody would be getting comfy.
What does that even mean anymore?
Yeah, what does comfy look like? Can I know?
Who's been comfy? I'd love to know.
Yeah. Right. What does that even look like? Our verdict, it's not a hot summer, but a lukewarm brunch with breadsticks overall.
Like Olive Garden or something?
Yeah. No, I'm Italian. You're not supposed to eat at Olive Garden.
No, I don't. I
have, admittedly.
I haven't in years, yeah.
It wasn't great. Their salad, though. I do like their salad. I got a good salad.
They used to be able to buy the salad dressing in the store, just in the...
I do remember that. Can you do that?
I remember buying it before and then seeing the amount of fat in the salad dressing. I was terrified. I was like, whoa.
Oh, yeah. Sam's Club sold it for a while. I don't know if they still sell it, but Sam's Club had it.
I don't know.
I remember buying the Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not in crisis, but we're also not thriving. Momentum is definitely needed as we look at what needs to happen out there. And the question is, who's going to provide the spark when we think about this and how it's all shaping out. Five market check overall. The confidence is meh, but holding. Growth limping into Q3, perhaps. However that looks like. Household stress under the surface. Discouraged workers are up and work weeks are down. Recruiting takeaway. There's fewer jobs posted, more competition, and ghosting creeping back into the cycle. Forecast for July, job gains likely under 150,000 again. It's been steady. It's been revised when it's been higher. We've been landing in somewhere around that mark. Participation may drop even more. When we look at it, sectors to watch: manufacturing, professional services, and hospitality. And then Fed's September rate cut is the likeliest, but that depends on July data and what we're seeing. Private hiring is the canary in the coal mine, and it's getting really quiet in that cage. We're seeing the private sector. I mean, 33,000 that ADP reported down in private jobs is pretty big. So it's not doom and gloom, but it is definitely a lull. The quiet before we see how it's all going to continue to unfold. Month over month adjustments, just so we can line in there. April payrolls revised up by 11K. May revised up by 5K. June net gain is 147,000 jobs. Private payrolls only 74,000. It's the lowest in 8 months. Government carried the load again with 73,000, or up 73,000, especially in education. Participation is shrinking. 130,000 fewer people in the workforce right now. Work week down to 34.2 hours, indicating cooling intensity. So weekly hours are down as well. We're seeing that shrink. Just mid-year kind of market mood. Overall, strong headline, hidden weaknesses. There's consistent growth. It is what it's showing from a numbers perspective, but there's hidden reliance on public sector jobs. We'll continue to watch that and see how that goes. The private sector is absolutely softening.
But the
Participation is
public
slipping.
sector, I'm sorry, but the public sector jobs, the government, U.S. government's always been the biggest employer. So when
Mm-hmm.
you see that dramatic of a drop, that has reverberation throughout the entire economy and the workforce, because there's so many businesses tied to government contracts, government workers, all of that. So anyway, sorry, just had to throw that in
Yeah,
there.
the growth, I feel like the growth is still there, right? We're seeing still jobs added, but it's not as significant as it has been by any means. And then we're seeing the private sector shrink
Right, right.
within that. So it's going to get pretty interesting as we look across it. Overall participation is slipping. Older workers are stepping out if they can and saying, I'm done with this place. They're
I wouldn't even
tired.
consider myself an older worker, but I feel that. I
Well,
feel that in my
I know,
bones.
right? Yeah, definitely. The immigration drag is continuing. Labor force is down. It equals fewer job seekers, artificially low employment, just overall. That is our overall. I mean, we've seen a steady, what it looks like, but steady without direction. I feel like it's all over the place. It's up and down. It's all around. You can't really call it. The numbers are a different picture from the feelings out there
Yeah,
overall.
sure.
When you look at the jobs that have been posted, the length of time that they've been posted, people that are looking, I see more and more people that are being laid off or let go or looking for work overall as I look across LinkedIn and different sources. It just doesn't feel like, again, feel like we're seeing some shift in the numbers, but it's not matching the sentiment. It still hasn't caught up yet. And I'm
Mhm.
wondering if that sentiment takes at least a quarter, two more quarters. We said on one of our episodes that we would start really feeling and seeing in July. So we're here in
Yeah.
July. That's 7 months in to really start to assess. So it'll be interesting to watch Q3 and Q4 as we head out into the rest of this year, because will we see that seasonal peak hiring that we typically see? We know a lot of companies depend on that. You have holidays that come. Again, a lot of companies
Yeah.
depend on that for shipping, logistics, goods, things of that nature. So watching that is going to become hypercritical, in my opinion.
And I really do think it'll be interesting to kind of look back once we get to like September, October, and see how hospitality did this year, more generally from spring break all the way through summer, because we know that has been hit pretty hard, um,
Mhm.
with so much going on globally, not just in the United States, but people, I would imagine, in other areas of the world maybe aren't traveling like they once were either. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yep,
I do still feel
absolutely.
like we need to have a better way of tracking this. This way that the government does it is just not, it doesn't feel really genuinely reflective of what's going on. But
Yeah.
I know it's just sort of like a snapshot in time, but I think it gives people false expectations or false negative view. It could go either way, really. So I don't know. That's for somebody else to figure out. But I do feel like it's a little like you kind of have to look at it with a big shaker of salt. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
just, you really have to kind of temper people's perceptions of what it is. It's important, but there's a lot of caveats to it.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. I think when we talk about the economy, the state it's been in, feelings, sentiments, to your
Mm-hmm.
point, people traveling less. Normally we would see a uptick or in hospitality and an increase there, and we're not seeing that this year. The state of just overall affairs that we have is impacting that piece of it. It still hasn't caught up with the sentiment. I do get the point of if you put people in panic mode, who knows what could happen in our economy, in our states today. Like, I feel like that's some of this as
Yeah.
well in trying to maybe paint a little bit better picture than what's out there. And ideally, based on everything that's coming down and everything that's happening, we see a shift in a good way, in a good momentum. I'm just not sure that that's going to happen as we continue to move forward in this cycle. Again, it's going to be interesting to watch in Q3, Q4, how we come out into 2026, because that is going to set the precedent for, I think, the next, 5 years or so.
Yeah, maybe longer, maybe 10 to 20
Hmm.
years.
Yeah.
The I think it's difficult when people have uncertainty in your lives, but it's one thing to have personal uncertainty with your own life for whatever reason within your own family, but when you see it happening on like a global stage, when there's a lot of uncertainty about where goods are coming from, what you're going to have to pay for them, you know, um, conflict with between other countries, all of that. I don't know that we've seen that in our lifetimes. I know my parents did when they were alive, back when they were kids and young adults and that sort of thing, but I don't know. So I think it's very uncharted in our world right now that like there's so much stuff going on and people feel it because they're watching the news, they're paying attention to social media and all of that, and so we're getting a very like an overwhelming amount of information that in the 70s, 80s, 90s we weren't getting as much of. And so even when there was conflict, there was things going on, it was sort of dosed out a little bit. So I try to step away from it as much as I can and to the extent that I can. And sometimes I'm like, oh hey, did you see that such and such? And was like, yeah, that was like 3 days ago. And I'm like, yeah, but it's still kind of current, and but I'm a little bit delayed in it. But I think that's kind of how it used to be, instead of like, hey, this just happened 30 minutes ago or an hour ago, whatever. You know what I mean? So I think that accounts for a lot of it too, is that people are just inundated with information, so that makes you feel overwhelmed and uncertain in a way that as humans I don't think we're really geared towards. It like sets up that, like, what is it, that like lizard brain, you
Yeah.
know there's a predator over here. Like you become afraid of everything. Everything becomes so much. And
Hmm.
you know I don't know, just it's just interesting, I guess. I'm trying to look at the, not the bright side of things, but like what can we learn from this experience that we're all kind of collectively going through you
Yeah.
know
The way that we consume information and the rate in which we consume information, to your point, has grown not even tenfold. It's higher than that when you think
yeah.
about how news was acquired before, even the type of news that was acquired. So you have all these different avenues and channels now. I was watching Anchorman 2 actually last night and watched that in forever. But how he changed the way news is, put out there, and this is what the 80s when you look at Anchorman 2, and it made me
Right.
really think about how different it is, and then how you can go to the different medium that you want to, or you start showing interest in this medium, so this news is going to be served up to you in this way. It also takes, I feel like, to some extent, the way to discern what is truth, what is narrative, what is overall. And I was telling Rashard this last night. Now, when I watch a movie or I watch a show that's new that comes out, I was watching, it's not called Making the Band because that was, what's his name thing.
Yeah.
But it's called
Interesting.
it's something similar. It's like rebuilding the band, or it's
Okay.
something in that nature where they put these people in the boxes, and they're in their 20s. They're all in their 20s. Some of them are a little bit younger than that, but I would say 19, 18 and up. I don't think
Hmm.
there's anybody younger than that. So they go in to these boxes and they hear each other sing, and they have 10, wait, they can hit it. Do it. But
Right.
anyways, I was watching this and I was just thinking, so Nicole, I'm going to say her last name wrong. Pussycat Dolls. What's their last name? It starts with an S. I'm not going to say it because I know I'm going to say it wrong.
For the Pussycat Dolls, but I don't really
She was the
remember
lead one with the
who's in.
black hair. So she has the black hair. And then
Mhm.
AJ, he was in was he Backstreet Boys? No, NSYNC. He was in Sync.
I don't know.
AJ
These
NSYNC.
are like not my
Yeah.
jam.
So anyways, they're the ones hosting, and they're like, this is very different than how we created it. So it's trying to change that narrative after everything that's happened in the music industry. And I'm like, that
And just
generation.
go by somebody's voice as opposed to their appearance and all of that.
Right.
Right.
Yes. So they're selecting them based on that. So they can't see them. And then they actually, when they choose each other, and they said, so some of it, like this one girl is, I can't think of what her name is, but she is, oh, I would not want her on my team. These people don't know what they're getting into. But so she's one of the last ones that will probably make a band. So I think the new one comes out on the 16th. The first time they see each other is when they're performing.
Okay.
So that's how then they finally
That
see
is
each other, whatever
wild to
else.
think
And
of. Yeah.
yeah, they're surprised, all of this kind of stuff. And then this one kid made a comment. He was from the US and he says, I don't want to be quirky like the boy bands were in the 90s. And you could, that AJ took offense because they sounded really good. And they
Hmm.
came out and they were like, not even giving them any props. Like, there's something to work with here. Instead of like, oh, that was
Right.
really good. Like everybody else, they kind of dissed him a little
Right.
bit because I know he was offended. But anyways, trying to change his whole narrative around music when so much has happened. And the younger generation wants to consume music differently than we did, right? And
Hmm.
there's not this tie to when you think about that type of culture to there once was. It's just so different now. I think they're trying to bring that part back, and I'm like, they might be a day late and a dollar short, but
It would be interesting. I mean, I know there's a lot of music that I have tapped into just like via Spotify and things like that. Whereas when I was a teenager, it was all about what was on the radio and on MTV.
yes.
And a lot of bands couldn't make it because they didn't have a good, you know, MTV look or sound or whatever. And they weren't like edgy enough to kind of circumvent that or
Hmm.
whatever. Um, and then MTV kind of got to be very, um, just very manufactured. Like the bands that were on there were very sort of, corporatized in a way. And then, MTV kind of changed its whole thing. But yeah, I mean, I remember as a kid, like you didn't, I'm really aging myself, but like as a kid, before MTV was really a thing, or before it was like widespread available everywhere, you only really had like what you could see in a magazine or on somebody's album in terms of pictures and things. And it was a very different experience to experience music in that way, that it wasn't visually being dictated to you.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's sort of interesting to see how that would work, if it would work.
Yeah. It's
It's an
really,
interesting concept for sure. It's very much like how it was back in the day, you know.
hmm, yeah. Yeah, it's on Netflix. It's super interesting, but it made me think too, how it's related to the market and what's happening out there and the evolution of everything. Because I feel like in this case, the music industry previously, right, or just recently, has taken everything way too far.
Yeah.
Everything that's happened, there's so much line of sight to it. There's more scrutiny around what's happening in the music industry. There's all of these things. And now people are wanting to consume differently. To your point, you find this great band on Spotify and no one's really they can do this without having those big music companies in a lot
Yeah.
of ways than what's
Maybe
been
not
there
making money, but
previously.
they can at least get their music out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like it's the same thing. Like I related it to, it snapped in my mind. You'll appreciate this, to the monsters, the career builders, the Indeeds, right? How far is too far before
Right.
you fall off and you just make everyone disinterested in what you're doing because you've tried to take advantage of them or treat them a certain
Right.
way, you know, that
Yeah.
they were purchasing from you or whatever else, right? Music took advantage of the people performing in a lot of ways, and they took advantage of some of the consumers of music as well. So that's kind of being, I feel like, right sized right now. So when
Right.
you think about the evolution of no matter what it is, it's the same cycle. It's the same
Hmm.
cycle where they try to gouge you and try to just treat you a certain way. And then all of a sudden, right, their end of their cycle has come. And if they
Right.
would have
Well,
just
and
done it
that's,
just a little bit differently, right, and been
you
able to
know,
evolve and treat people with care and concern, it would look different today.
yeah, it's true. I mean, that really has happened with everything, with whether it's buying a concert ticket, buying music, buying food, even, or trying to buy a car or a house, any bigger purchases, how sort of out of range those things have become in so many ways, you know? Um, yeah, it's kind of wild to think about.
All right. Like, share, follow, comment.
We're available on Spotify, speaking of Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, Audible, iHeartRadio, basically anywhere that you can stream or watch.
Hey, until next time. Bye.